H2K Infosys provides world-class online IT training, staffing and software testing solutions to customers worldwide. H2K Infosys supports 100% job-oriented training, hands-on project work, cloud test lab, resume preparation and review, mock interviews, robust syllabus. One-time pay, lifetime access to live classes and videos. H2K Infosys has won the trust of thousands of students worldwide. For free demo class, visit h2kinfosys.com.
Good with that. So there is no alternative to JDBC. Okay, clear? Just like I told you, when you are learning web technology, under the hood it's gonna be servlet. Similarly, when you are fetching the data from the database and saving into database, under the hood it's gonna be JDBC. There is no alternative with that, because that is something Java has provided. People have provided a framework after that. Okay, so we will learn about Hibernate. What's the use of Hibernate? Okay, why we use it? Okay, when we use it, and then we're going to modify our teacher's app into a Hibernate project. Good with that? Excited for that? So let's start. So let's start an awesome journey here, which is Hibernate. Okay, so what is Hibernate? Okay, so we have an extensive session for that. So first thing is pros and cons of JDBC. So JDBC is clean, it's simple, it's SQL processing, it's good performance with large data, it's very good for small applications and simple syntax, easy to learn. We saw that, right? Now, what about cons though? So cons is complex if it is used in large projects. So large projects have complicated relationships. Large projects have complicated queries. Okay, they have, and I saw some tables who have 22 fields, 20 fields, okay, 40 fields. Okay, and for that JDBC is kind of a huge thing to talk about. Then large programming overhead. One thing you have to do is you have to write the query, fetch the data, iterate through the result set, make sure you convert that into an object, get into the list, forward that list. Okay, and reverse, you have to again do the reverse processing, that get the data from the object and all those things, right? So basically this programming overhead. Okay, there is also, when you are actually converting that into an object, you end up writing business logic into it. Now up to today we have not done that, but then let's imagine that you have an entire customer object. Okay, so you end up calculating discounts on the JDBC classes itself. You end up calculating credit card credit history, okay, on the JDBC classes itself. So that's kind of, you're bleeding a business logic into a DAO layer. That's bad. That is a violation of your MVC principle. What is MVC? We'll talk about it. But then basically you should keep business logic and database logic separate. Okay, and that's not happening because of this JDBC structure. So there should be a clear difference between this is my database stuff and this is my business stuff, and they should not touch each other. Okay, ideally. So hard to implement MVC concept, and query is DBMS specific. Now in DB2 my query ends with UR. My Sybase, my query ends with go statement. Okay, my Oracle or MySQL, the statement ends with semicolon. Okay, getting the date for MySQL is different than getting a date in Sybase, getting a date in DB2. So what exactly happening is my query becomes specific to the database, and now later on when I want to change my database, okay, I have to rewrite my queries and make sure that it is specific to that particular DB. Correct? So now that is a problem. Correct? And that being said, for microservices kind of architecture, we know that there are separate databases for separate modules. So at that time, again, it's a hectic job because another module may be using a completely different database. So what's the solution? The solution is object-relational mapping. That is ORM. So when we work with ORM system, there is a mismatch between object model, and so when we work with, also there is a mismatch between object model and relational databases, and that will be eliminated, okay, in the proper format. What is there? The object is basically a Java structure with private variables, and database is nothing but a table with columns and data into it. So now what happens is you will form a relationship between this guy and this guy, okay, your fields and values. So there is a relation between this and your RDBMS. Okay, so your last name, okay, hold on, let me reduce this 100. Okay, cool with that, and wipe it out. Cool. So now you have a relationship between this guy to this guy. Are you sharing screen? Yes. Then first name is mapping to first name here, Last name is mapping to last name here. Salary is mapping to salary here. Getting my point? So this is how the structure looks like. So when you do that, this is called object relational mapping. Okay, so you map these fields together. Okay, create an external file of it. Okay, so this might be an XML file. Create that external file. Okay, and this mapping is actually saved here, so that you don't have to map it yourself. You don't have to write result state dot get string get int and all those things. You don't have to do that. You do that once in an XML mapping, which is externalized file, and then this conversion of table data to an object and object to the table data is automatic. Good with that? So conversion of object into table and table into object is automatic. This is called as ORM. Good with that? So now ORM is a layer against JDBC. So under the hood there is a JDBC layer. Okay. So just like JDBC, ORM also needs some configuration details. ORM also needs some connection parameters. ORM also needs object details, okay, and mapping details. So what are the different objects needed by ORM, and then what exactly Hibernate provides? Now, first thing, is Hibernate is only ORM? The answer is no. At first, ORM is provided by Java itself, called as JPA, Java Persistence API. Okay, Hibernate is an implementation of JPA. Okay, understood this? Hibernate is not something which was existed since Big Bang Theory. No, Hibernate is something which is built on JPA. The first thing provided is basically by Java itself, called as Java Persistent API. So within Hibernate, we're gonna give an implementation to JPA, okay, and Hibernate provides additional functions obviously, and it will be useful to us. Now, before we move further, I really want you to see Hibernate's real website, because this is where you're gonna, now today onwards, I'll tell you one thing, even if you have materials, be habitual to go to the materials of the software itself. Okay, if you're using Hibernate, go to Hibernate website, make sure you understand the documentation of Hibernate, not only this material. Good with that? Because this material, after this particular class, this version may change. Hibernate will release 5 point something. I built this material on Hibernate 4, and now the Hibernate latest version is Hibernate 5. So we're gonna use Hibernate 5. I'm not saying that. Okay, the concept remains the same, but you should be comfortable using that particular thing. Okay, using the materials provided by software itself. Okay, so be habitual with that. So that being said, let's jump there, see what Hibernate really is, and is it this Hibernate is only ORM or something else? That also we'll see. And then we're gonna create a Maven project. Remember that we use Maven project, so we will be encapsulating some Maven stuff into it. Maven is not a big thing; it's simple. You'll see that. So let's jump to Hibernate website. If you still don't have the Go, have that. It will not store your history. So hibernate.org, and go ahead and hit that. Okay, so here it is. So this is Hibernate, everything data. Simple statement, right? So now the first, so there are a lot of projects you have. Hibernate search, so that is something with like Elastic, okay, which is a full-fledged database text search kind of thing, functionality. Hibernate search, like Hibernate validator, OGM tools, others. What we care about is ORM, okay? So this is ORM. Hibernate validator 6.1 versions and all those things. Don't worry about this. This is amazing blogs, okay? Just go ahead and read it or subscribe to it, okay? And subscribe to all these things, okay, so that you'll get the latest stuff. Cool. So now click on more for Hibernate ORM, and here you go. So the latest stable version is 5.4. Development version is 6. Don't go for 6. Okay, stable version. Even though if it is stable version is 5.4, remember that the industry is on n-1. Industry will never grab the latest stable. It will grab the latest stable -1. Okay. These are the rules. Just mind it. Just keep it in mind. Okay. Same thing which I told you enables developer to more easily write application whose data object to application process on all those. Okay, object oriented mapping ORM framework, Hibernate is concerned with the data persistence and all those. Okay, basically what? It's a GPA provider, what I just said. So this is Java persistent API implementation. So Hibernate is also an implementation of JPA specifications. Okay, do you want to know JPA? It's Hibernate. Okay, there is no new thing here. So now jump on the documentation, and documentation, go to latest stable. This is what we're gonna learn. Good with that? So now getting started guide, click on it. Everything is there in our documentation also, but I'm just making you aware that you should be comfortable here. Okay, now here, how do we create Hibernate repository? So this is like, see, Maven repository for Hibernate, and how do we download Hibernate jars and everything. I'll tell you a step-by-step process. Don't worry about it. Just wanted to show you. Cool. So now what are the things are provided here? I want you to go through it, but then it's not mandatory. Go to the steps first. Okay. So before when we learned about JDBC, we learned about 6 important objects. In Hibernate also, we're going to learn about 6 important objects. ORM stands for object-relational mapping, is a programming technique for converting data between relational databases and object-oriented programming language, okay, such as Java. Now, advantages of ORM, just go through it. Whatever we discuss is already there. ORM solution consists of what are the things we have. Okay, so that's a different thing. This is how it looks like. You have your Java objects, your business logic, your model, your controller, your servlet, your JSPs, and then it is connecting to ORM or Hibernate framework, which is connecting to database. Now, this is not connecting to database. Remember this. Now, ORM is in between, and Hibernate gonna do that for you. Now, how does that mapping really works, or how does the things really work? Okay. So let's understand the 6 important objects for ORM. So now first thing you need to understand that when you start JDBC, what was the first object you learned about? Remember that? The first object you learned about is driver manager. Isn't that true? So you have driver. So driver consists of what? Okay, our driver manager consists of what? It's basically a connection. Okay. So that connection is basically need what? A URL and all those things. Correct? So you need URL, your username and password. So basically driver manager's responsibility to provide you a connection. Now I have somebody else to do this task. Okay. So I have to provide all these things in the form of an XML file. Okay. And this thing is called as configuration. So the first object in Hibernate is configuration. Okay. So configuration basically, we'll go here. So the first object in Hibernate is configuration object, which is responsible to keep the configuration of driver URL, username, password, okay, and driver class name. All those things goes here. Okay. Out of that information, we need to create a connection. We need to interact with that particular database. So reading that configuration and creating connection is a responsibility of an object called as session factory. Okay, so reading this object and creating a connection out of it and closing the connections, okay, having multiple interaction is a responsibility of session factory. As the name suggests, session factory is a factory of what? Session. Session is an active interaction between database and Java. So that means session factory provides a session. Session is nothing but an active interaction between Java and database. Okay. So that is session. Within session, you can do what? You can actually hit the query. You can actually insert, you can update and all those things. So session needs something called as transactions. So session takes the help of transaction. Okay, so within transaction you have query. Query is actually holding the SQL. Okay, and now you can actually use something called as criteria also. So criteria is your where clause. Okay, so this is like a statement and this is like a prepared statement. Good with that? So you got all the objects. Your configuration holds configuration of the database, like how to connect, where to connect, when to connect, okay, how many connections, all those things. which is the reading of this configuration and creating connection is the responsibility of session factory. After reading, session factory, when asked, provides a connection, provide a session. Session needs a transaction. Transaction actually executes query. Correct? Actually, session executes query within the transaction. And then you have criteria, which is prepared statement, which is where clause. Okay, so these are the 6 important objects within Hibernate. If you learn those, basically half of the work is done. Okay, in that we have JTA, Java Transaction Analyzer, JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, JNDI, Java Naming and Directory Interface. So out of that you are done with this, you are pending with this. This is not at all important. This is internal for this. Okay, we don't have to use it. Good with that. Now how you are going to interact is you are writing this Java application and you are going to write this persistent object. Okay, so this persistent object has to be mapped with your database. Okay, this mapping is called as configuration, and this we are going to do. Other than that, everything internal logic is taken care by who? Hibernate. Good with that? So we'll take one example and that will absolutely clears out all the doubts like what exactly or how exactly it works. So let's do that. Okay, so let me trash out everything and come back to Eclipse. And we'll try to create this project and everything. So now come back to the documentation first. Mapping file, how does mapping file really works? It has all these things. Let me see if we have any example mapping file somewhere. Okay, so you have this, and this is complete code. This might be confusing. So this is actually Hibernate code, I guess. So this is not important for me. So you don't need that. I don't need source code. I need examples. So let's look at it if we have any examples here. Even I am looking at it first time. Okay, because we were learning Hibernate 5.2, so this is a newer documentation, but it's completely okay. Okay, we have documentations, getting started guide. It doesn't have anything though. Let's say user guide, what it actually has. Let's see if it has anything for me. Get involved. Okay, so architecture, see here, architecture diagram, data access layer, persistent API, Hibernate native API. Yeah, here you go. So your session factory, session IMPL. Okay, these details of things, how the transactions are working and all those. Session factory definition of that. Okay, so now it gave me a detailed one. Okay, so detailed example. So let's do that, but we can use our own tables for that. So for us, teacher table is important, correct? So what we're going to do is we will first include Hibernate jar files in our project, and then we'll make sure that we have those loaded, okay, in our what I can say, in our project. Okay, so we'll load that. Okay, so let's go ahead and use it. So for that, I'm going to create a first ever Maven project. Now if you have the latest version of Eclipse, this should be right there. Maven is right there in your Eclipse. If you are using older version of Eclipse, Maven won't be there. So I will recommend you to download the latest one. So now right click on and select new. Oops, what did I do? Right click new and I say other and start typing Maven, M-A-V-E-N. Okay, so you have 3 things. Check out Maven project from SCM. No, it's not needed. Maven module, okay, and Maven project. What exactly? We'll come back to it. Don't worry. Maven project. Okay, so Maven is something which will actually handle your jar files. It is project management module. Okay, so Maven will specify which jars are needed for my project. So it's basically a dependency manager. Good with that. So instead of downloading jar myself, I will ask Maven to download the jar files for me. That's the only difference. Okay. It's not a hard concept. Now it's basically consolidating all the Maven jars for me and creating a simple web archive. Okay, so now if you want to do with me, do that. No issues with that. So I'm going to create a Maven project. Okay, so click on next. Now here there are a lot of wizards. Okay, so these are already existing wizards. We have to use any one of the template from here. Okay, is also called as archetypes. Okay, so you have to select Maven archetype quick start. You have to just start quickly, don't worry about it. There are a lot of other things. Okay, we have J2E, you have web app. Okay, from that I'm going to choose Maven archetype quick start. Okay, click on next. Now you have to provide the name to it. So I'm just saying December Hibernate 5.4. Okay, Hibernate 5.4. Good with that. Artifact ID is also same. Okay, and I'm just giving the name com.h2kinfosys.hibernate. This is a package name it will actually create. Good with that. So group ID and artifact ID is useful for internal usage of Maven. This is like a project name. So now we have this, just finish this off. So it will create a Maven project for me. So Maven project will look very similar to our Java projects. It has M here. Just like Java projects has J, web project has Earth. Okay, here it has M. So if you open this project, you will have your SRC. Okay, you have more. Okay, just wait for it. It's completing. It's not completed yet. So let it complete. Let me close this off. Let it complete. Okay, so now if I open this, I will have two important folders, two important things to look at. So first is src main Java. Src main Java will have your package com.h2kinfosys hibernate. This is where you're gonna write your code. And another one is test Java. This is where you're gonna write your JUnit test cases. Okay, so I will keep this intact. I'm not going to touch this. I'll keep it, and I'm not using it as of now. src test Java. We'll use it after our JUnits are completed. Now we have something new here called Maven dependencies. Up to this point we were having the dependencies for Java only. Maven dependency is a new stuff. So just take a look. It has only JUnits. Okay, so I'm not touching it here. But then how can I add Hibernate here in Maven dependency? So I can do that with the help of something called as pom.xml. This pom.xml is project object model. Okay, just open that, and it opens in this way. You have another view of that. It's not yet open, don't worry. Okay, so this is the stuff which I gave, like group ID, artifact ID, okay, and the jar version. Good with that. So name, all those things. Now it has something called as dependencies. That means what are the jar files needed for my project. So in dependency, I will add the dependency of the project. So now I want to add Hibernate here. Good with that. So how do you do that? So that's what I was searching in here. So I'll go back to getting started guide. I'm not sure why, but I'm not able to find a Maven repository artifact. So general information about the repository. Let's see. The team responsible for the JBoss Maven repository is different. Okay, authority repository for Hibernate artifacts is JBoss Maven repository. Hibernate artifacts sync with Maven central part automated job. Okay, some small delay may occur. Fine. So now general information about repository, information about setting up JBoss repository. Okay, so this is something which is interesting. So this is a group ID. So now just open this guy. This is new thing for me also. Okay, so I'm literally taking it from here. Okay, just because they said it. So I'm just opening Maven repository organization coming from developer Maven. So it has something. The page moved to Maven repository. See here. Okay, so I'm looking at Hibernate. If I'm not able to I will give you another simple way. Fine. So this is not giving me anything related to Hibernate somehow. Okay. Information about setting up. So we'll see setup. This is for Maven, I guess, not for Hibernate. Yeah, that's not Hibernate. Okay. So Hibernate ORM artifact published under org Hibernate group ID. Okay, fine. So let's search for this group ID if you have anywhere. So just say org dot. Now it's not visible. Okay, so that means this group ID is not available here. Okay, so now I'll give you another easiest way to find that. Just go ahead and say Maven and say Hibernate. Okay, that's it. Your Hibernate dependency. Your DuckDuckGo is intelligent enough to grab that for me. So it will go org Hibernate from Maven repository. Okay, so it will be, I need everything, correct? So I'll go in Hibernate core. So you can go to Hibernate org.hibernate and find out all. Okay, so I need Hibernate core and I need 5.4 final. Okay, also you can see like how many people actually downloaded that. So it's not 23 people only downloaded, 394. So this is November 19. So this is amazing, right? I have this one version 549. You can also get the highest number of people downloaded that stuff and then you can use that. Okay, okay, let's look at it. This is for 6, so we don't want 6 for sure. So 54 and we're gonna download this one 549. So when you say download, that means I'm just doing nothing but copying this stuff, okay, and put it below here and save it. Once I save it, these jars will be downloaded for me and it will be available in the project. Isn't that awesome? I don't have to worry anything, which jar is correct, which jar is dependency jar, what are the other stuff needed, nothing. Okay, it will see you're downloading the jar for me. And see here, these are jars which are getting downloaded. Hibernate core. Cool. So now my Hibernate is ready. I can see in my Maven repository these many jars are getting downloaded. These are needed things for Hibernate. For Hibernate core, JBoss logging, JavaX persistent API, Java Assist, ByteBuddy, Antler, JBoss. See, all these things are needed. But then if I would have done that, I would have downloaded all these things. I don't know which version of this jar is compatible with this version. Now you see the importance of Maven. Just by including this, okay, I have downloaded all the dependencies which are required for this particular thing. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so always remember Maven repository, search what actually you need. It's just Maven repository. If you don't have the link, I will paste the link in your chat box, but you should search here. So what exactly Maven does is a repository management. So you manage the repository for Hibernate. You included those jars and now these jars are part of your project. So if you just see the properties, go to Java build path. These libraries are already here in your library. So now you don't have to add them manually. Okay, it's added already for you. Good with that? So now you are ready with Hibernate setup. Okay, cool with that? So now let's go ahead and start doing Hibernate stuff. Now the first thing is you need a configuration to connect to the particular DB. Okay, so now let's go reverse. We create an object, we map it to we know the table, okay, and then we'll try to connect to that particular table. Good with that? So now let's create an object. So object is teacher or actor, whichever you want. So just go ahead and use that. So in SRC we have DTO, we have teacher DTO, which has this field, teacher ID, first name, last name, and skill. Okay, shall we use that or shall we keep it for your practice? So let's do that. You're gonna convert that to teacher. I will keep actor, so I'll use actor DTO instead. Close this guy. I have this, which will have an actor DTO in JDBC. Oh, I don't have it. Anyway, fine. So now I have an actor DTO. I'll create that. New class and have a package ready called DTO and name that as actor DTO. Oops, DTO. Finish. Obviously, you need what? You need to create. Okay, what is this? So now you need to create what? You need to again start your workbench. So MySQL workbench and start your SQL. What are the things actor has? So actor DTO, your simple constructor. Now today I will tell you what is a bean. So this thing which we are going to write is basically called as bean in Java. This is also called as persistent class. This is also called as Pojo. Okay, so this is bean, Pojo, okay, entity, okay, persistent class. Okay, so all these words are basically for the same entity, for same thing. It's called as persistent class, entity, Pojo means plain old Java object, and bean. So all these things refers to the same thing, which has like a DTO having a no argument constructor. Okay, have nothing in it, or you may have some logic in here, and have fields, private, integer, actor ID, and you know the stuff. First name, last name, or last update. Correct, and all the fields have getter setters. So just click on one, right click, source, and go to generate getters and setters. Select all, choose the last field and public. I need that. Generate method comments. I need that. Generate. It will generate getters and setters for that. So you have get first name, get last name, and all those things. Okay, somehow actor is missing, so add actor also. So you can do that too. So just hover there and create getters and setters. That is also fine. Okay, so okay, and it will create getters and setters for actor also here. So now this actor DTO is ready for me. Now we can see the table. We know that the table is exactly the same, so we don't have to worry about that. Now somehow you need to map them together. So we are going to create two different files. One is your connectivity files, which will connect to this particular database, and another is your mapping file. So let's create that. So first create a connectivity file. So connectivity file is called as hibernate.cfg file. So we're going to create that. So this is Hibernate with MySQL database. You are going to start with Hibernate configuration. I will actually paste it there and see how it looks like. Good with that? So let me grab this file from an existing project, or you can download it anywhere from this documentation. Okay, this has it. So let me grab it from an existing project. It's exactly same as what we have here. Good with that? Okay. So now coming back, and you are going to put that particular file in src mean Java. So put that here, which is called hibernate.cfg.xml. Okay, you can also put it in src folder. No wrong in that. Okay, so I'm putting it in here. This is not an employee, this should be actor. We'll come back to it later. So this is actor.hbm.xml, but I'll come back to it later. So now the first thing is hibernate.cfg.xml, which is exactly what we did. Now this one has, there's no difference between this and that. Okay, this is exactly the same. Hibernate configuration, we are also doing Hibernate configuration and then session factory in that. Good with that? So this is how it looks like. So the first thing is you have to include DTD, data definition document. Okay, so you have to include that, and then you start with Hibernate configuration. This is a root tag of your XML. In that, now remember one thing, your configuration object is basically responsible, or configuration XML is basically read by session factory. So ultimately you are building what object? Session factory object. That's why we are writing a session factory. In that session factory, we have to provide some properties. What are the different things I have? So the first thing is dialect. Dialect is nothing but the way Hibernate interacts with your driver. Good with that? So now dialect is responsible to write your query according to your database. Okay, Di is to, lect is for language. So dialect is basically two languages. It knows Java, it also knows the database. Now isn't that a same thing driver does? Yes, driver does that, but driver needs what? SQL, and we don't want SQL to be dependent on database, right? As I told you earlier, the SQL itself is dependent on database. So how do we convert that into a database specific SQL? That is the responsibility of a dialect. Now who provides this dialect? So this dialect is provided by Hibernate. So org Hibernate dialect package will have MySQL dialect. Now does it have only one dialect? No. Control Shift T, open dialects. What happened? Terminal is not opening. Okay, let me do one thing. Okay, so you can see that there is a MySQL dialect which is actually converting your query according to MySQL. So it knows like what is a MySQL format. It knows what exactly a MySQL uses for different things. Okay, for system, for timing, for everything, for varchar. Okay, so it converts that into it. Okay, this comes from org Hibernate dialect package. Now that particular package has a lot of other things also. So if you go there, org Hibernate dialect package, you will see db2, derby, okay, then your firebird, informix, ingress, okay, then mysql 5, mysql 7, mysql 5, mysql 8, oracle, right, postgre, all these things, sap, sql, all these database dialects are already there. You don't have to break your head, it's already there, you just have to use it. Okay, coming from the same exact packages. So now dialects are provided by Hibernate. Now driver class is provided by who? MySQL. Now that being said, did you include that? Did you include that? No, you have not included your MySQL driver. How do you get it? Maven. Now onwards everything is Maven. So go ahead and tell Maven that I need MySQL driver. Search for it. Get it. MySQL connector.java. Okay. I have it 0.17, right? So this is what I have. So it's 100 downloads. I'm going to grab that. How do you grab it? Just copy this part of it and then go and paste it in your where pom.xml and you are done. How easy is that? No downloads, no class path adjustment, nothing. So save it and you get MySQL connector. Guys, awesome. That is Maven. That amazing stuff is Maven. So now you got MySQL connector also. Okay. Now third is connection parameter. This URL you have already used it. You know that this is a connection URL JDBC MySQL localhost 3306 Aquila. Username Rishi, password is password. Okay. And after that you have actor.hbm.xml, which you are saying that it has a mapping to an actor table, an actor Java class. Okay, so now I know one table here which is called actor table. Let me start this. JT is Java Transaction Analyzer, is for transaction management. So when you have let's say you have multiple queries to be hit within a single unit of work, we call it as a transaction. So within under the hood, JTA will help you to complete that operation. Okay, how it works, it's basically a what I can say, it's not something which is a scope of Hibernate. We'll talk about it, but not here. Okay, so my database connection is ready, my version is ready, everything is clear. So now I want to do what? I want to map them, right? As I told you earlier, like I have to map my Java class to my table. This is what I need. So how do I do that? So for that we create a file which is called as HBM file. So this is very common terminology, HBM. So do you have that HBM? Okay, so HBM is Hibernate mapping file. Okay, so here you're gonna map your actor table, actor DTO to an actor table. How do you do that? So we'll get this package. Okay, so and this is Hibernate mapping. Okay, same DTD, that is data definition description. Okay, and map it here and says actor TO, actor DTO. Correct? So com.htk-infosys, this is a name of the class. Map to which table? Not employee, map to actor table. MySQL small case, uppercase, same. Okay, or SQL itself is not case sensitive. How can I get? Okay, so you will not get it. You will just create it from here. Okay, so the standard structure is already there in the documentation. So I'll go here and show you. See. Okay, so you start with class name and the table name, and within that you have properties and all those things. Okay, so I have already created for you, so I'm just using it. Okay, so what it has, I will tell you. So this one basically you create it. Now the first thing is ignored as of now. Now because this is the primary key, we'll talk about it later. Now here the property is property of this particular DTO. So in this DTO, I am going to map first name property to the column first underscore name. Is that true? So let's go ahead and hit the query Sakila dot actor. Hit the query and see the column names. First underscore name. So first underscore name, that's correct. And type equals to string. So this type are basically either string, date, int. Okay, so very basic type. So these are the Java things. How do we convert this thing into this thing is provided here. Okay, so consider this as string. Now the last name is last underscore name and string. So last underscore name map to last name property of the DTO. Good with that? Again a string. Now third one is basically last update. Is there a way to point Hibernate to the table and it auto create these mappings? Basically I'm telling you what I can say, older way of doing things. In the later we are actually doing that in a annotations way. We'll learn that later, but then mapping has to be done by you. Okay, because mapping has actual logic in it. Good with that? So it's not automated. Good with that? So last underscore update and you will put it here. So this is last update. Okay, it will be last update. Okay, Is it that last underscore, right? Yes. And then here your time will be, so type you have to adjust. It's not providing me any help. Okay, fine. So type will be timestamp or date. Let me check. So I have many things here which will tell you. Type isn't. Yeah, here you go. What are the different types? So you have character, double, boolean, date. You have timestamp also. So grab that timestamp. Awesome. Got it? Everything is in your material. Nothing to worry about that. So that's a timestamp. Cool. So now we talk about the first one. So ID is a primary key. So whenever a table has a primary key, you specify that into ID column, not a property column. So what is ID? ID is a primary key. Name is basically an actor ID, right? Map to a column which says actor underscore ID. Okay, type is integer. Now this is interesting. Generator class native. What does that mean? So now Hibernate provides you a generator if the ID is not auto increment from the database. This generator has different kinds of algorithms. So we have Hilo algorithm, we have native algorithm, okay, we have other algorithm like tree and all. So when you use class equals to native, that means you are just telling that whatever logic database provides or whatever best suited for this particular DTO or table, use that. So native is nothing but use whatever you think is right. Okay, and believe me, trust me, it works fine. So generator class is generator for a primary key. If it is auto increment and provided by database, it will be given to you directly. Other algorithm, if it is not provided, other algorithms will be actually chosen according to the type of the data. Good with that? And it is capable of generating alphanumeric keys as well. Okay, so now we have mapping of a primary key as well. So now we are done with the mapping. So we mapped entire actor table to an actor DTO. Okay, so actor table is mapped to actor DTO. Now how does that really work, or does it even work? Okay, so this is what we're gonna test now. So for that we are going to create something called as actor DAO. So new class, and here we'll say DAO, actor DAO. Have main method in it because we have to execute something. Okay, so before we proceed further, the first thing you have to remember that you have to read this configuration file and create what object? Session factory. Now session factory creation is not a joke. So we have to grab that method as it is from documentation. Just grab that method as it is. Don't put your logic in it. Yes, just copy. And I have been doing since like ages. Okay, the exact same thing. They always provide this implementation. I'll explain you what they do, but this is what you should do. Okay, just copy paste that. Now this is protected or private or public, whichever you want. I'll keep it as it is, no problem. The method is setup. Setup method has to be called, okay, only once. So we're going to call it in a constructor. We can do that, throws exception. Now first thing is it says final standard service registry. Okay, so and actually what it does, this registry is basically going to configure this, which actually goes in your hibernate.cfg.xml and read that and configure that. So this class is responsible for reading that particular registry. Good with that? And builder. Okay, so this registry class is responsible to read that configuration, configure setting from hibernate.cfg.xml and build this particular file. Good with that? Now you need a session factory object. So you grab that session factory object from somewhere. So you create an instance of it. You have private session factory. Okay, and this session factory equals null. And session factory is basically read from the registry. build metadata, build session factory. So now registry information is read and session factory is created. This is what it is. That's it. Okay. And if you are failing or if you are done with the session factory, you should be closing, not destroy that particular session factory. Now remember one thing, the session factory is a heavy object. You do not create session factory every time. You create it only and only once. Okay. Once at the start of the project, you create that and you are done with that. Cool with that? So now that being said, I'll be writing a simple constructor and only thing I'll do is call setup method, which ultimately does what? It ultimately does session factory building. It throws exceptions, so it is to have a try catch block or let it throw an exception. Understanding the basic principles, what we learned about constructor, what it does. Okay, whenever I want to do something to initialize the class, I have to do what? I have to use constructor. Now I'm actually using it. So you can see the practical examples, everything getting implemented and getting into place. Correct? So now this is what it is. You are done with your session factory creation. This object is provided by, or the method is provided by Hibernate itself from the documentation. Good with that? So now you are done with session factory creation. Now you are going to create methods which will actually fetch the data from table. So that example we will take and we will stop for today and we'll continue tomorrow. Now what you have to do is you have to modify your teacher's app, make sure you have hibernate.cfg, okay, and teacher DAO ready with setup, okay, and have one connection, okay, at least. So we'll make sure that. So now first method I'm going to do is, actually I'm printing the stuff, so I'm just saying fetch all actors. This is what it is. Fetch all as of now. Good with that. So now what you really need, I told you one object which is configuration, second is session factory. Session factory provides what? Session factory provides session. So session equals, who will give you session? Session factory. So session factory dot, and give me what? Get current session, open session. So open session is the method, so you get a session here. Everything should be under try catch block. So try. This video anyway will be available for you. So if I repeat something, try 3 times, 4 times, okay, it will be little boring for when you watch the video. Okay, so please grab the video mat to copy. So, and here I'm fetching an exception. ex dot print stack trace. Okay, good with that. So now you got the session. What you're gonna do is you will be starting at, so now this is your step number 3. Step number 1 was configuration, step number 2 was session factory, step number 3 was getting a session. Now step number 4 is starting a transaction. So you start transaction, you say transaction Hibernate, I'll say tx equals session dot, and it will say begin transaction. Transaction is started. As soon as you start the transaction, close it immediately. We can write the code within that. So tx dot, and you have transaction dot commit, okay, and then tx dot is basically close the transaction. So it's end transaction. I think it's commit only. Fine. Now one more thing you have to do is, as soon as you start session, you should close the session. Just like we did for connection, you should also close the session. Okay, within this you're gonna write the code, correct? So now what is the code? So code is to fetch what? Fetch actors. Okay, so now for that we have to write something called as query. So session dot, okay, you say create query. Okay, session dot create query, and here you're gonna actually hit the query. Okay, the query is from actor DTO. Remember that you have to fetch the query which is from table, not from class, not from actual what I can say, table, okay, from this particular class. Okay, so create query, gonna return what? Query. So you get Hibernate query, okay, which is actor DTO. Okay, now this is deprecated, and the new, so intentionally I was searching for something, right? So that is deprecated, and this one is replaced by something called as typed query. This is not deprecated. Okay, so typed query, and here create query remains the same. Okay, that's completely okay. If you get any error, we'll resolve this, but typed query is nothing but query of the type. Okay, query of this type actor DTO, so it's gonna give me an actor DTO back. How many lines of code you wrote? Okay, so now what you have to do is you have to get query dot get result list. Okay, it will be a list of, so java.util list of actor DTO. Okay, and I'll say actors equals query dot get result list. Good with that? And now you can print them. So for actor DTO, each actor actors, and you can just sys out, say actor ID, each actor, oops, sorry, get actor ID plus, I'll just say actor name. Okay, not big thing on that. Each actor dot get first name, each actor dot get last name. That's it. I'm not going to go ahead. This is it. So this is, I'm iterating through all of them and making sure that everything is available. Okay, printing that, and I'm done. So I'm committing the transaction. So basically there is no transaction. I'm just hitting a select query, but that's it. Okay, let me check if I have typed query for this. So create, and I don't have typed query, I'm pretty sure. No, I don't. Fine. Okay, so that being said, I'm done. I'm closing everything. So this is what it is. Okay, so what happened? What? Each actor cannot be resolved. Why? What did I do wrong? What happened suddenly? Unnecessary. Okay. Putting a breakpoint, and let's start this. So putting a breakpoint here. I need to have main method, so let me call that. Oops, breakpoint is not there. Yeah. So here we'll create actor DAO. We did lot of things. Okay, so you have to go slow. Okay, repeat the video. Actor DAO. Okay, that will actually create your session factory as well. And what you do, actor DAO dot, and you ask for fetch all actors, which will print all the actors for you. Good with that? So let's go ahead, and then first is throwing an exception. So try catch block. Okay, and that's it. So go ahead and run this or debug this and see if it really works. So here you go. We did a lot of coding. You might actually end up some kind of exceptions. No issues with that. Yeah, you got one. You got one. Let's see what it is. You got an exception here. So let's see. It's a null pointer exception. Why? Driver manager connection provider URL. Okay, so there is some problem in driver manager provider URL. So what it is? So that's we want to search. Okay, so let me open this particular thing properly. Okay, so this is for your session factory. So Rishi at password, yes. Okay, so there's some problem in providing connection. Okay, so what we'll do is it is not able to obtain the connection. So for this particular thing, so let me actually check why it is not able to getting why it is not getting connection. Okay, this will simply throw an exception, right? So let's put let's check first whether my parameters are correct in hibernate.cfg. So you have a driver class, com mysql cj jdbc driver, mysql localhost. Okay, this is fine. Rishi and the password. So this seems correct. Okay, so now let's try to find out in actor. In exception, I want to print stack trace of e. So e dot print stack trace. It will give me some idea that what exactly is going wrong. I'll put a breakpoint here and then right click, run as or debug as Java application. Let's see where it exactly failing. Okay, so now here is unable to create requested service JDBC environment. Okay, for why though? So let's see. Access denied for user Rishi at localhost. Okay, so close this. I have one more user which is called root. So access is not provided for that. So root is the one which I want to try access to. Okay, so I'm not getting any error now. So I think my session factory is correct. So now session is getting opened. Let's see if it works. If session is open, then basically we are creating a proper connection with database. Okay, so my session is created. Now my transaction is getting created. My query. Let's see if we get any error in query. Okay, now see if we get results out of it. Cool with that. So now let's go ahead and print all actors. Basically you got all the detail fetched. Okay, and you can print them. Cool with that. So this is what this is an Hibernate class. Now how many classes are, how many things you wrote? Suppose this method is already provided and it is provided by Hibernate. How many really the lines of code you need to write for creating? Now transaction is not required. Ignore this line. So line number 1, line number 2 and line number 3. Within 3 lines, you basically wrote an entire code to fetch all the actors from the database. Correct? So you can do awesome things with it. So we are already delayed by some time, but it's okay. But then what are the different other things you can do? Can I select only one actor? Can I update it? Can I insert it? What are the different things I can do? What is this guy? What is this from actor? What is this called? All those things we're going to continue tomorrow. So today for the homework, update your teacher app. Make sure you have Hibernate in it. Good with that? So at least configuration standpoint, I'm going to share this with you and provide an URL in email so that you can grab this code for your understanding. So that being said, we're going to stop here and we'll continue tomorrow. Thanks a lot, everyone. Good night.